Welcome everyone to Jason's first ever deck profile video. Today a deck I've worked on and piloted for quite some time, the Defendroids. I ran this at Brisbane Area Championships here in Australia and it performed quite well in most matchups. I did regrettably finish only 20th, so I didn't get to make a day 2 in the event. However, my deck was showcased on the stream, which got a lot of attention, and after taking down Universe 6 Brawly 2-0, people got excited to see androids actually doing something again. It actually even caused a price spike and buyout of one of the Android 18 Krillin cards from the draft box, meaning TCG player had no stock of that card at all. This could be linked to the Miracle box being spoiled, but I feel better taking credit for it. Let's jump into the cards and what they do briefly, and at the end I'll walk you through the deck as a whole and how it works. The leader is Android 17 / Diabolical Duo Android 17 and 18. It makes all Android 17 and 18 cards 1 energy cheaper, awakens at 6 life to draw 2, and on the awaken side it keeps the permanent, draws on attack, and if you're below 4 health, all Android 17 and 18 cards get a 5k buff, including itself. Let's start with the board defense. 4 Energy Guard Android 17. 3 cost that becomes a 2 cost. 15k blocker that restands at the end of your turn. Great for applying pressure, staying out of harm's way, and providing a blocker if you're being pressured. 4 Limitless Energy Android 17. 4 cost that becomes a 3 cost. 20k barrier blocker that KOs a card when it's played. Very useful for clearing the board and maintaining a solid defense. 4 Deadly Defender Android 18, a 3 cost that becomes a 2 cost, 20k barrier Deadly Defender, which stops your leader from being attacked when it's in rest mode. 3 Destined Deed Krillin, a blocker you can play for free if there's an Android 18 in your battle or leader area, so once you've awakened, free blockers. Here's some other miscellaneous battle cards we need. 4 Krillin and Android 18, Power Couple. Is a dual color 4-drop that can be arrivaled in for 1 green energy, or played for 3 energy, minimum 1 yellow, and has the effect to make my opponent pitch a card from hand, or ignore a keyword skill on one of your opponent's battle cards, such as Blocker or Double Strike. 3 Son Gohan Master and Pupil. When it's played, you take up to 2 cards from your life and add them to your hand, and has the activate main for 1 green to send it to the warp, and at the end of your opponent's next turn, play it, which is almost a guaranteed awaken. Here's what we have in terms of extra and super combo cards. 4 Shocking Death Ball, a base green negate that can blow up a card that costs 2 or less, and also has a sparking 5 negate if needed as well. 2 Preemptive Strike, a counterplay that if your opponent plays something costing 4 or less, it goes to the drop instead of being played. 3 King Vegeta Surprise Attack, which gives a target battle card plus 10k and revenge for the entire turn. 3 Defending Father Paragus, the best green super combo to date, which draws 2 and you warp 1 card by choice, only if you're at 4 or less life. 1 Stout-Hearted Android 16. This was a choice I made mainly to throw off my opponents, and it's a super combo that makes your opponent send a card from their hand to their drop. Here's the counter play cards that we have. 2 Moitaro, Skill of a Sage. If your opponent plays something that costs more energy than they have, it ignores barrier and then comes in rest mode. 4 Champa the Trickster, which can be counterplayed for 2 energy if you have a multicolored energy in your energy area. It switches one of your opponent's cards to rest mode, ignoring barrier, and during their turn it draws a card. 3 Vegeta the Cruel, again a potential 2-drop, which on play, during your opponent's turn, KOs a card costing 4 or less and causes your opponent to warp a card from their hand. Brilliant board control. Here's the black cards that we work with. 3 Dark Temptation Toa, a free overrealm with 3 and drop that causes your opponent to drop 1 card from their hand and buffs your leader for 5k for the turn if they're green or yellow. 3 Remote Serious Bomb, a very underrated card. Your opponent chooses 1 battle card and sends it to their warp. If they only have 1, then that card goes to the warp. That's the main board covered, let's quickly go over the sideboard. 3 Dark Power Black Masked Saiyan. It was mainly for decks that bought out low-cost units with auto abilities, and was a target side for decks such as Red-Green Pan, as it triggers on things like Double Shot Vegeta, Chain Attack Trunks, and Familial Bonds. 3 Tien Shinhan Returning Fire. This was for blue untapped matchups, and is also just a very useful card when taking on a Janemba player. I sideboarded it into one matchup against a Hirudegarn deck and got decent value from it, but the matchup there wasn't in my favour. 3 Forced Ejection Masked Saiyan. Bringing this out for Porunga ramp or Shenron ramp was super important in playtesting, and gave me the time I needed to bring out more blockers, with which they struggled to respond. 3 Sorrowful Strike Tien Shinhan. Plain and simple, this was for the Janemba matchups, however I'm also considering having it in the Porunga and Shenron ramp matchups to stall for a little extra time, or at least to stifle their plays, putting their most valuable cards back into their deck. 2 Mercenary Tau, Ruthless Trainer. I saw some potential to get cheeky when facing Frieza Prison or counterattack Jiren, putting myself down in resources purposely so they would do as well. This did help me win a game as well against Frieza Prison. And finally, one more Preemptive Strike. I'd side this in against decks that just had a lot of things I didn't want to see enter the board. Here's what the entire deck list looks like laid out. There are some ideas and tweaks I want to make, but the core engines work amazingly, and I really am quite hopeful to see what different iterations end up making their way to the game. So let's talk about game plan. Defendroids is all about playing a defensive, reactionary game, stifling your opponent's aggression, hurting their plays, and using your low-cost units to generate highly advantageous trades in your favour. With the android cards being extremely low cost, high power, and super defensive, you can apply a lot of pressure safely. Turn 1, there's no low-cost units, so you've got 2 prime decisions here. Firstly, a Draft Box Gohan Activate main means you're almost guaranteed to awaken next turn, unless they invest resources like counterplays to prevent that from happening. The alternative is Krillin 18 Energy with Energy Exhaust. Early game, you'll want to either get an Energy Guard Android 17 out, as they increase in overall value for each turn they remain on the board and attacking. Alternatively, if you have multicolored energy up, save your energy for counterplays on your opponent's turn to rest or kill their battle cards. Mid-game, you will hopefully have a Deadly Defender 18 out on the board, which will swing for 25k and block all incoming attacks for 20k. Combine that with King Vegeta's surprise attack and you can bring that up to 30k with Revenge for the entire turn. That isn't an easy wall to get around, and will cause your opponent to seriously consider attacking with anything at all. For maximum value, you can block an attack with Android at 17 or a free Krillin blocker, and apply King Vegeta's surprise attack during your combo phase to Android 18, and let the blocker attack resolve normally. The ruling on surprise attack means that the first card to attack no longer dies, which it used to back in the day. However, this is an alternative way to get the buff down and a lot more safely. You can use the Arrival Android 18 Krillin to remove a card's barrier, meaning it can be killed with things such as Remote Sirius Bomb or Android 17. If you're going against a control style deck, wait until you have energy to play a card and cast Preemptive Strike afterwards to stop their counterplays from ruining your game plan, and keep some defensive pressure on the board. Late game, you won't have as many heavy hitters. However, if you continue to block your opponent's attacks and opt into favourable trades, your opponent won't have much to defend with left, and you can just pressure them out of their life. The weaknesses of the deck is that there's no big looming threat card, no big 7-drops, no 1-card win conditions, so unless you know your way around playing a defensive reactionary deck, you will likely struggle. Very little gets around barrier blockers, but some things really do end your game plan. For example, one of the rounds that I lost to Frieza, Army Reborn, who cleared my barrier blockers, Deadly Defendroids, and removed my negates from hand when he did. And due to the luck of the draw, I didn't have counterplay cards necessary to at least prevent a quadruple strike and swing for game. Additionally, against decks who won't awaken you, you do become highly reliant on the Draft Box Son Gohan. If you don't draw into him soon, then you're out of luck. A game I played had me still unawakened by turn 5, and when going against a Shenron Victory Strike deck, you need to awaken soon, to at least fuel your own hand looking for responses and counters for the inevitable threat that's looming. Before ending this video, I want to say that I partly didn't want to share this deck today, as it'll likely be what I run at Nationals, and the rogue element is something that I see value in. However, after seeing a few posts on Facebook and seeing TCG Player completely sell out of Android 18 and Krillin cards shortly after my game went live, this felt special to me. Even as someone who didn't make top cut, I changed the state of the game, even just a little. In Melbourne Regionals of 2018, the top cut list had 15 blue leaders at the peak of the Hurrigan Storm, and then there was me, with Androids and Cell Chain. Since then, I've been an Androids fanboy, and I'm always exploring new ways to make their tech work. I want to further thank TAC Games and everyone else involved from TAC for an amazing event, the Cybermen, who I got the pleasure of meeting officially for the first time this weekend, and the Midian Guard, a partner of the Cybermen. Their link will be in the description. You can also find a link to my YouTube channel where I kind of don't upload. Dang it. Anyways, thanks for watching, be sure to subscribe to the Cybermen for more DBS content, and we'll see you in the next one.